Every year, we honor an individual with the DMF Champion of Hope Award. This award is given to someone who furthers the lives of people with disabilities. This year, we are proud to present the award to the Epstein family in honor of the legacy of Dr. Fred Epstein. Dr. Fred, as his patients like to call him, operated on some of the most difficult neurological cases in children. But he was far more than an accomplished neurosurgeon. He had the special quality of giving hope to both the patients he operated on and their families. And he never gave up that hope, even in the bleakest of times. When Daniel was in the hospital and not doing well, Dr. Fred always went the extra mile. He would often come into our room and say, "Children are special. You just never know." We will always remember you, Dr. Fred, and we would be remiss not to thank his entire team, many of whom are here tonight, for never giving up hope on Daniel and giving him the gift of life so that he could live on, flourish, and help others through music. Your legacy lives on. And now, I would like to introduce you to Alan Abramson, who we've known for over 25 years, and who's always been there for our family. He was a close friend of Dr. Fred for many years. Please welcome Alan Abramson.
Talk about a tough act to follow. Impossible. I'm overwhelmed. Tonight is emotional so many ways. When I got a call from Ken asking me if I'd say a couple of words of love and respect for Fred, I said, well, that's an honor beyond belief. The only problem is a couple of words, because I could talk for days and weeks on end about Fred Epstein. My wife and I met Fred in January of 1981 at the worst night of our lives. We had found out that our firstborn, Jonathan, had a brain tumor. He was admitted to Mount Sinai on an emergency basis. Didn't sleep that night. All we did, we were children. It was 1981. We didn't know anybody. We had no connections. We didn't know where to look. We called here, we called there, and one name kept coming up, and that was Fred's name. And crazy as I was that night, I looked in the phone book, and there was a listed phone number for Dr. Fred Epstein. And I called that number at 3 in the morning. Pretty outrageous. And, I said, look, it's a matter of life and death. He said, that's why my number's listed. Come to my office at 8 in the morning. And, you know, from great tragedy, we lost Jonathan 9 months later. But his life in passing wasn't for nothing. Goodness, even greatness, came out of it because of the remarkable relationship that we were able to create with Fred Epstein. During his talking about hope, Fred was the greatest man I've ever known in my life. The greatest man I ever expect to know in my life. There will never be another. Those aren't light words. And you'd think after we lost Jonathan, this would be someone we'd never want to see again, and it was quite the contrary. He became one of our dearest friends. And we became dear friends with Kathy and the whole beautiful and amazing Epstein family. And out of that friendship, amazing things happened. Well, early on, when we were at NYU, the first night Jonathan was there, it was 8 o'clock, and we were told to leave. It was visiting hours were over. And this was 1981, there were visiting hours. We had this sick child, and we had no intention of leaving. And we said, well, they'll take us out of here in handcuffs. We're not going. Someone's going to stay with them. And Fred intervened, broke all the rules. He knew us now for exactly 24 hours and said, let one of them stay. And that was the beginning. I would say that was the beginning of a major shift in the paradigm of healthcare, probably in this country and around the world, where instead of just clinical care by the books, the practice of great medicine, just the practice of great medicine, there was great attention paid to what the patient was going through besides just the physical body. There was a recognition by Fred that night that this isn't just happening to the child, that the whole family is going through this. And one of the things that grew out of all of that, as we started, was the creation of the Institute for Neurology and Neurosurgery, the IN, at Israel, which, again, so many of the amazing team that was there at the IN is here tonight. It was a bright, shining moment. Regrettably, it was just a moment. The IN was short-lived. But during that time, there were no ego clashes, there were no battles. Everybody was pulling in the same direction to recognizing that everybody who was there was living through a hellish moment in their lives. But how could the institution take off all the unnecessary rough edges and make this experience not good, but less horrific? And it was in that extraordinary place that when Daniel had his injury, Daniel and the Trush family came and with an amazing result. As I look at this room, it's very extraordinary because so many of it's a reunion in so many ways. I'm seeing people who I worked with for years at the Inn and loved and adored, and they all said the same thing. Even almost 8 years since his passing, Fred has the ability to bring so many people together. And as I look at this room, I'm saying Daniel and the Trush family have the ability to bring so many people together. Those of you who knew him well knew that Fred suffered from dyslexia, which was a disability he had to deal with his whole life, which clearly didn't hold him back. It spurred him and excelled him to excellence at the top of anything that was ever done in the world. And Daniel has taken his situation and used it as an engine of excellence, of positive thinking, of hope, of inspiration that's beyond anything I could possibly imagine. So, Daniel, I've said to you for years, I'll always say, when I think of a hero, I think of you. When I think of heroes, I think of the Trush family. When I think of heroes, I think of the late Fred. So it's just a privilege to stand here tonight in tribute to such extraordinary people, in tribute to the incredible generosity of the Kefalides family, who we're privileged to know for 30 years. And this is an amazing night. It's a great privilege to be part of it.